So good afternoon, everyone, once again. Our next session is Experience of Mindfulness. We have a three-member panel, and that panel will be moderated by Mr. Somabandu Kodikara. Can we have you on stage, Mr. Kodikara? Our speakers and panelists for this session, Dr. Harsha, Mr. Amaranath Jayakody, and Mr. Muthu Sivagnanam. Just to give a roundup as to how the session will run, as it did in the earlier session, each speaker will give a presentation of about 12 minutes, and the timer will be on for each speaker for the timing. And there will be a Q&A session with audience participation after that, which will run for the full hour. That's 3 speakers plus probably a 15-minute Q&A. So, Mr. Kodikara, 12 minutes per speaker, and the balance for Q&A. The timer will run for each speaker on this and also for the Q&A. Over to you.
Venerable Sirs, friends in mindfulness, we are continuing with the impact of Satipasala mindfulness in the school system and the university system. For that, the first speaker is Dr. Harsha. He will speak about the impact of Satipasala on the gateway schools. But before I call on him to speak, I want to narrate a little thing with the permission of Bhante. I was the principal of Gateway for 10 years, but that was up to 2010. By that time, Satipasala was not initiated. So during my time, so Satipasala was not there. It came into being in 2016. So I associated Dr. so closely. In my 47, this is my 48th year in education. He is the busiest person I have seen in my life. In fact, I have seen him often with 2 telephones in his 2 years and speaking to a third person face to face. So now if Satipasala has had an effect, an impact on Gateway, it will be the proof of the pudding will be how it has affected the chairman of Gateway Group. So I am as eager as you are to see how it has affected. So Dr. Harsha, please tell us.
Venerable members of the clergy, dear friends, good afternoon. I don't know whether I can live up to the introduction made by Mr. Kodikara, our former principal, but I think it's my duty more than I think we must make sure that we give whatever we can to the children of our schools. So I'm going to share my experience with Gateway College about how we implemented this program. Gateway colleges, we have 4 schools with a student population of 5,000. We are a multiracial, multi-religious, multicultural organization, and that is very important to us. We follow an international curriculum. The medium of instruction is English. But of the 4 schools, if I just broadly analyze, Colombo and Kandy, we have a majority of Buddhists. The Nigambu school, I think the majority is Catholics, and Dehiwala, the majority is Muslims. So we have a fair mix. And where our vision is concerned, our vision is energize, enlighten, empower. I don't have to kind of explain or describe, but you will appreciate that we strongly believe that the mind has a strong effect on what we want to do. And in that, like any other school, religion is also an important component where Gateway is concerned. As I mentioned earlier, we have children of all 4 religions. Every school has religious observances, but a few years ago, we tried to do it a little differently, where we used the public address system in the school. All our classrooms are wired, so they all have, where sound is concerned, it's quite good. So what we did was we came up with a system where we had a new reading every day by new students. So students change, the readings change, and also the order of the religions also change. If we start with Buddhist today, tomorrow it will be Christians, and so on and so forth. And of course, every child listens to every religion. So I'm going to put you through this experience that our students go through. It is done after the school interval. And you being here now after your interval, you will have to go through the same experiences. So I kindly request, not the members of the clergy, my other friends, to rise, to stand, and kind of experience this with me, the same thing that our children go through after the interval.
Manupubbangama dhamma manusetta manomaya manasache paduttena bhasati va karoti va tatunam dukkhamanveti Chakkam vavahato padam. Dhammapada from Yamakavagga.
Evil begets evil. Mind is the forerunner of all evil states. Mind is chief. Mind-made are they. If one speaks or acts with wicked mind, because of that, suffering follows one, even as the wheel follows the hoof of the draught ox.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين.
Surah 1. The Opening. In the name of Allah, the Compassionate, the Merciful. All praise and thanks be to Allah, the Lord of the worlds, the Compassionate, the Merciful, Master of the Day of Judgment. It is you alone we worship, and to you alone we look for help. Guide us to the straight path, the path of those whom you have bestowed your grace, not the path those who have earned your anger, nor those who have gone astray.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found, was blind, but now I see.
A prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen.
Ma silvineyum மாலை மதியமும் வீசு தென்றலும் வீங்கிலவேனிலும் மூசு வண்டரை பொய்கையும் போன்றதே ஈசன் எந்தை இணையடி நிழலே.
Saint Tirunavukkara says that the shelter under the feet of the god is like the nice melody of the musical instrument, the veena. It is also like the early evening moon. It makes you feel pleasant breeze in the spring. It is like a pond where bees are happily singing.
Thank you. Please be seated. So hopefully they learn everything of their own religion every day, something from their own religion from every day. They also learn something from the other religions every day because it's a different reading every day. And hopefully with time they'll realize that all religions teach us to do good. Then when we kind of started reading and researching about mindfulness, we saw a huge opportunity for us to bring our entire student community in doing something together. And we were very keen to get on with our mindfulness program. And coincidentally, it was around the same time that a team of people led by Dr. Tara Dimel, Prof. Saroj Jayasinghe, came to us and said that they would like to carry out some research in a school before they really kind of look at the bigger picture. And the research was carried out through the leadership of Mr. Aruna Manatunga. We had a kind of a 3-month program that was carried out in our school where they took about 40 students and 15-year-old students and carried out this research. And I believe they kind of came out with some very interesting findings. And obviously with our association, I think we were able to give a little support during the formative stages of Satipasala. This was there on the Satipasala website. And with time, obviously Satipasala, especially Mr. Deepal Suryarachi was very helpful to us, and in turn the school benefited very much with their support. But honestly, we really didn't know how to get started because personally we were not keen just to do it for a small group. We were very keen that we take a whole school approach, but we were really not sure as to how we should get started. One way was to kind of get all the teachers trained, but we knew that we'll never be able to train all our teachers to the same level for them to kind of lead this program. Then we thought, why not look at what we do with our religious programs? And we did, we take 5 minutes every afternoon, every day after the interval. We thought we will consider taking 5 minutes more. And my guru, Dr. Saroj Jayasinghe, had mentioned in the morning that it's good to allocate 10 minutes of the curriculum, so 5 plus 5 makes it 10, and I'm pleased that my guru has kind of mentioned that. Now, what we did was, we put 3 teachers each from all 4 campuses, made a team, and asked them to work on this. In fact, they worked for well over 6 to 9 months. They did a lot of research, looked at various programs available internationally, but we all sat together and agreed on a common strategy. And we thought we will work on 5-minute scripts that can be run. What we decided was to have a script running for 1 week and the script to change every week, and then these scripts, different scripts every week for a term, and then repeat it the following term. So that's the strategy we took. So the program that we developed obviously is secular. We take a whole school approach, and we thought we'll start with the secondary school students. And as I said, before school starts, now this 5-minute program runs in all our schools at 7:40 in the morning. So all our students in the secondary school, in all 4 campuses, listen to this every morning. The scripts that we have developed so far include listening, mindful breathing, body scanning, gratitude, and mindful eating. Unfortunately, because we do it in the classroom, we are unable to have mindful walking. And I'm not going to go through the entire 5-minute clip, but for you to just to get a taste of it, I'll just run 2 clips. And these programs, the clips in themselves have been designed and developed, and even the reading is from our own teachers.
Sit comfortably in your chair. Having a still body makes it easier to be mindful. Gently close your eyes and pay attention to the ringing of the bell. Let's listen to it again, but this time get your mindful ears on. That means you listen very carefully the whole time. See if you can pay attention from the very first moment you hear the bell all the way to the end. Pay attention to the point when the sound is gone. Take a deep breath. When you are ready, slowly open your eyes and bring your attention back to your surroundings.
Okay,
Sit in a comfortable position. Close your eyes. Relax your body and take 2 to 3 deep breaths. Now bring to mind someone in your life you are grateful for. It could be a loved one, a parent, a relative, a teacher, or a friend. Anyone. But make sure you make it easy. Not someone you should be grateful for. Rather someone that the thought of them naturally makes you smile and filled up with love. Invite them into your heart. Try and get an image of them. See their faces in bright colors. If you cannot get an image, it's absolutely fine. Just feel their presence. Maybe you can smell them or hear them or just notice how their presence feels like.
Yes, so as I mentioned, every week it's a new clip. And as we go on, we reduce the amount of talking. So that's how we have planned the clips to run for an entire year. I'm going to share some of our student testimonials. And if you see their names and the classes, you will see that they are from different age groups as well as different religions. This first from a year 12 student who says, "It is with this program only that I realized how long a minute is." And I certainly agree. When I listened to the first clip, the 5-minute clip, I can assure you that was the longest 5 minutes in my life, confirming what Mr. Kodikara mentioned. Another student who says that they were a little skeptical to begin with, but yet everything changed when the program got integrated into the school routine or the curriculum. So now it's like part of our curriculum. This student says, that it has helped them to be calm and focused, a year 7 student. And this child, a year 8 child, says, we are better prepared for our lessons after mindfulness. And I do not have the time to share the comments of the teachers. I must tell you, many teachers whom, in my opinion, are the best people to, kind of make a judgment, if you say so, on the program, they are delighted. They all feel that students settle down very well after the 5-minute program. And our head of change management has done a little research. I mean, it's at very preliminary stages. We haven't done any statistical analysis, using 2 instruments that are used to measure the effectiveness of mindfulness. This was done with a group of 40 students in year 9. And if you take these instruments, they mainly measure the attention, awareness, present focus, and acceptance. The first one, CAMSR, the preliminary findings show that out of a score of 4, the mean has moved from 2.53 to 2.68. Similarly, another tool that she has used, MAS, again shows, which is out of a score of 6, that the mean has moved up. In fact, interestingly, if you compare that with the means of another international study that had been carried out, where you see average scores of undergraduate students, Zen meditators, and cancer sufferers, you can see at what level school kids are in comparison to them. So all in all, it's been a wonderful experience, and listening to the speakers of last evening as well as this morning, one thing that was echoed was that mindfulness should be non-religious. I am here to re-echo those same sentiments. The success of mindfulness will always be if it is non-religious and if it is open to everyone, including different kinds of schools, different kinds of students, and as mentioned, all over the world. Thank you very much.
Father, illustrious educationist and one-of-a-kind principal who established 4 shrines belonging to 4 religions at DSNI College. I now invite Mr. Amaranath Jayatilaka, one of the live wires of Satipasala in Australia. Sir.
Respect to the Blessed One, the dispensation and the great community of Sangha, most venerable teacher, venerable monks and nuns, leaders in mindfulness from other religious denominations, distinguished guests. In this one-of-a-kind inaugural event, I'm going to discuss some of my experiences as a facilitator in the context of a foreign country, Australia. Talking about all these things are basically gossip for me. So let me start my gossip by saying I'm conducting quite a few mindful schools, adult mindfulness programs, and even some youth programs in some cities in Australia. They are basically in Sydney, Brisbane, Canberra, and Berwick, and 2 other cities are in the pipeline. And one thing I do, when I do any session, which are conducted on a monthly basis, is I refresh what mindfulness is. So one day in Berwick Mindful School, I asked the kids, what is mindfulness? Everyone came very close, but the youngest in the group had the most acceptable answer to me. His little voice muttered, here, now I am. Good. The next session, I asked the very same question. Everyone was correct this time. And then I quietly asked, can someone tell me how we get to here now I am? Once again, this little boy was able to stand up. He said, keep observing the body. I was thrilled with his answer, immediately acknowledged him with thumbs up, high fives and low fives, and was thinking to myself, isn't this what we are trying to do in the mindful school? to plant the seed of mindfulness, I felt that I had done my job. And he has learned the best lesson in his life, having the basics of mindfulness. He was just 5 years old then. And this little boy has taught us a lesson, which is start mindfulness in grade 1 at least, and the first lesson in the school. And teaching mindfulness does not end there for me. Whenever I start a mindful school in any community group, one thing I do is I make it a point to talk to the parents in the first session itself, just to ensure that we all are on the same page. My experience is that when I talk to parents, they bring the children to mindful school to add one more to that list. I tell them, don't put an objective when you bring the children to mindful school. They keep arguing. So I'm asking them, if you are building an oil refinery, are you focusing on the byproduct or the fine product that you get at the end of the process? In Sinhala we call it Punnaku ganna sekku ahadano. And I remember reading an article early last year that appeared in Australian Financial Review. And the title of the article was Mindfulness is under the microscope and it doesn't work for everybody. And the article claimed that the researchers have found mindfulness is not working nowadays. The reason being, it is not being used for the purpose it should be used for. So when I tell these things to the parents, they realize that the kid should be left alone to do the mindfulness in their own pace. And as an added advantage, they start practicing mindfulness with the kids in the mindful school or at home, or they join the adult programs. So coming on to my second point, which is what we actually learn by trying to teach mindfulness in the society, are so many. But I have picked up 3 main points, as you can see, to tell you what we really learn. And talking about adaptability reminds me a mindful school that I'm conducting at the moment. And in this mindful school, the organizers warned me at the very outset, in this bunch of kids, there are some kids who are really nasty, their language is so harsh, and some even use the F word when they talk to the parents. I said, good, let them come to the mindful school. And the organizers were perfect, they were right. And they were very unruly in the first session itself. And in the second session, no difference. They very clearly indicated that they don't want to be here. So at the end of the second session, I asked them, is there anyone who was bored? Almost all the hands went up. So I said, that is mindfulness. Knowing what is going within you in any particular point in time is mindfulness. Looked at each other, maintained a pin drop silence. They were speechless. Session ended. Third session, when they came in, they started sitting where I wanted them to sit. And they were very actively participating in the discussion. So I saw a very clear difference between the second and the third session. I attribute that to the way I related to the kids in the second session. So therefore, when we teach kids, we will have to keep in mind they're like birds chirping all the time and flying everywhere. And we will have to be kids and pass the message to them. And I remember once Goenka said that if you are disturbed by the behavior of children in a children's course, you are not practicing what you are preaching. And derived from the adaptability, we should find more and more ways to keep kids happy. Undoubtedly, there are plenty of resources available in Sati Pathsala website to keep kids happy. But one thing we did in Brisbane Mindful School is I requested the assistant facilitators to have a chat to the kids and see whether there are anything else we can do. They came out that day and said, they are really disheartened unless we provide an individual feedback whenever written reflection is requested. I said, of course, all of us agreed, it's a huge ask. But since it is from kids, we did not have any alternative to find a way. So we found a way, and we were able to, because of that, commend their effort and encourage them, and also sometimes to find out inequalities. I remember one child had written, he's really, really angry after each and every walking and sitting session. We commented that it's fantastic that you have seen that, you have observed it, and you have reported it, and we quietly asked, what are you going to do about it? He said, it's very bad, I should somehow or other avoid it. Then we said, good, but as an alternative, you are angry and you don't like your anger, you are trying to avoid it, which means you multiply your anger. Instead, can you just observe the fact that you are angry and accept honestly that you are angry? Then when we were saying these things, his eyes started gleaming and then face turned bright, as if he has found something that has been lost for a long, long time. So therefore, to keep kids reminded, we, in addition to SMS, which is slowly, mindfully, silently, we have introduced something called slowly, silently, smilingly, so that this is something that should not be done with a long face. And this is something that I'm not going to go into detail, because Chandrika has already gone into detail of this. Although we have so many challenges, the question we have is whether the mindfulness really works. And the criteria we have got to see is how, to what extent people are using mindfulness as the way to see happiness. If I give you an example from my own life, in 2015, I visited my brother in Canada, where some of my university friends are also living, and we are meeting after about 35 years. So they arranged a welcome party on the second day itself. So when we went there is no need for me to explain what sort of tables were arranged. So it was a grand party. So in the first few minutes, I told them, guys, look, thank you very much for the warm welcome. But unfortunately, I don't take liquor now, and the whole family is vegetarian. And their jaws dropped and started asking, when did you become a blank piece of paper? I started telling my story, and the party atmosphere changed, and it was converted into a discussion on mindfulness. And which went for about 1.5 hours, 2 hours, and during this time, there were some guys sipping glasses, and they quietly stopped that. At the end of the session, I saw on my own eyes, most of the glasses got emptied into the sink. And the beauty is, after a few years, I think last year, they came back and asked whether they can have a full-time residential retreat when Bhante is in Canada next time. Hopefully it is going to happen in 2019. There are a couple of other examples. I'm not quite sure how the audience will take it. Anyway, I'm presenting them. They're quite strong. And I have met young adults who have been using drugs. And the justification they had for taking drugs was they get to a bliss that we are trying to arrive at after sitting for long hours and for so many years. And I told them, I'm not quite sure of the bliss that you are talking about, but only thing I'm sure is that you will ruin your lives, you will ruin your careers and many other things in your life. And if you really want to get to bliss, yes, there's something called mindfulness, and these are the techniques to develop it, and this is how you do it. And in addition to that, you can be mindful of anything, whether they are good or bad. After a few months, the guys were different. I asked, what happened? Then they said, no, we started practicing mindfulness and we don't take drugs any longer. I asked, why? No, we started taking drugs also mindfully, and we lost the joy of taking drugs. So mindfulness has worked. But the nice thing is, some of these boys are very ardent mindfulness practitioners today, and hopefully they have a very bright spiritual life ahead of them. And the other example is there's a person who approached me asking whether I will be able to help him through mindfulness to come out of his bad habit of addiction to prostitutes. I said, my friend, this is not something for you to go and do something bad and use this to come out of it. You take your determination and there is something called precept, you come out of it. But since you came to me, if you ask me how to become a better person, how to become a happier person, yes, I will teach you what mindfulness is, and this is mindfulness, and these are the techniques to develop it. And in addition to that, again, you do anything in your daily life, whether they are good or bad, and be mindful. And this person has improved tremendously. He is not completely out, but keep communicating with me. He has tremendously come out of his bad habit. I'm giving these things not to claim that we can reform each and every individual who is addicted to something. But we can create opportunities and find out whether there are any willing souls. And if there are willing people, we will be able to give them a hand. When we reach out, we also extend the warmth of our heart. That becomes a human-to-human communication, which empowers those frail-minded souls in our society to stand on their own feet. So therefore, please extend both your arms and radiate the warmth of your heart. Thank you very much for listening, and be mindful.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jayatilaka. The next speaker is Mr. Muthu Sivagnanam. He was a top official of the Ministry of Education some time back. Now he's going to talk to us today about the effect of mindfulness, effect of Satipasala on the schools in the northern province. But before I invite him, I need to say this also. I have attended, I have participated in, I have conducted literally hundreds of sessions on this mindfulness and Satipasala. But there is one thing that stands out. That's a little story. It's a story about a cat. I don't know. It's a story about Mr. Sivagnanam's neighbor's cat. I don't know whether he can squeeze in that within his 12 weeks. Mr. Sivagnanam, you have to be mindful of that as well. Okay? But still try to squeeze in that if you can.
Very mindful good afternoon to all the distinguished guests, including the members of the venerable members of the clergy of all denominations. I am actually from the north, living in Colombo at the moment. So that's why I think they have asked me to speak on the Mindful School program in schools in the northern province. And I was involved in implementing that program along with the task force. Actually, my personal experience goes a long way in making my contribution to the Satipasala Foundation. Actually, I had a very sorrowful life before becoming a mindful practitioner. I was successful in academic as well as professional achievements, but I was not happy in my life. I was creating problem for everybody, including my family members and especially my wife, who was actually didn't have any option to get rid of me because they were depending on me. This stressful life is because I was intolerant, horribly intolerant, and discontentment. I was not satisfied with what I had and what I have achieved. So I was always worried about getting something more. I was not satisfied with what I had. Then impatience. It's a problem. I never tolerated anything, and I wanted everything to be done immediately. Of course, not possible. Even cooking at home. So that led everybody to untold unhappiness. And I had my soft skills are very, it was inadequate. I didn't have enough adequate soft skills to live amicably with others. and not skilled in controlling my emotions, my feelings, impulses, everything. Everything created hell for me in life. But an eventful, fortunate thing happened in my life at the beginning of 2016. I was asked to translate instructional essays on mindful school by most Venerable Yogavacara Dhammajiva Mahathero, and actually I consider it a turning point in my life. I had to go through the essays very carefully to translate them. It was not mere translation. But, reading the writings of saints with reflections, will change you. It gave a transformation in my life. I became a mindful practitioner, and I am now leading a very happy life. I'm very happy, always smiling and always making others smile. I'm very happy now, very happy. Slowly, mindfully, silently. I undertake everything, I do everything slowly, mindfully and silently. So I am happy that I am a mindful practitioner to the letter, as far as I know. And mindfulness has become a tool in my hand to control myself. And I become a tortoise when I am irritated. Nobody can disturb me now. And as Mr. Somabandu told, I used to look out of the window to the neighbors, the cat in the neighbor's veranda. It just sits like without moving, without doing anything. It just sits there. I also just sit like that. So everybody is happy. But my wife is very suspicious why I am always at the window. But after surreptitiously looking at what I was looking at, she was calmed, and now she is very happy, and she encourages me to stand near the window and look at the cat. And being a tortoise. So no problem for them. Now this coming to the Mindful School program in the North, actually we had a problem in introducing this program in the schools in the Tamil speaking area, because all our facilitators were Sinhala speaking or English speaking. So I was asked to help them, and we started this program in the Northern Province. In September 20th and 21st, we had two well-planned sessions in Jaffna and Vanaya. And these were conducted with to certain amount of success, because we had the video on Mindful School program in Tamil. That was the first time we had that in Tamil, and we used it at the sessions, and people were very happy. And before that, we had a sort of feasibility survey undertaken, and we found that if we start, they were prejudiced, and we started the program with religious observation of 4 religions in Jaffna, and we did that in Vanaya also. So people were the prejudices were gone, and they participated in the program with full mind. And they never had any bias towards the program, and the facilitators' instructions were translated to them with animation, and they were very happy, and it was an effective program. And after the programs, the teachers told us that they had been undergoing a lot of programs, training programs, but this was the first time the program touched their mind, they said. the program touched their mind and it made a transformation in their thinking. And I would like to quote one from Vanaya, a sister told, we have been, I have attended many sessions addressing the mind to create calmness in our thinking and new light of bare attention. While involving myself deeply in mindful meditation in this session, I have been inspired to start searching for real inner peace in an effective way by being mindful in every moment of my day-to-day life. I hope we will be given further exposure to this wonderful experience. This was a testimonial, feedback we got from a reverend sister, teacher from Vavanaya Rambakulam Mahavidyalaya. Then another teacher from Mullaitivu, the worst affected area by war. She had to say this: we have been struggling with problems that seem to have no solution in the near future. We have been living without hopes, but with a great pain in mind caused by stress, tensions, and disappointments. We are deceived and directed towards a blind alley. Many appear to be working for our salvation and have been exposing us to numerous programs addressing mental health and well-being. However, the sign of deliverance is not in sight. However, the Satipasala program I attended today actually touched my heart and carried me through a peaceful flow of new experience. It is my fervent hope that we can gain actual peace and reconciliation if this program is extended to all the schools in the province. These were two remarkable feedback from the participants we got. And now, after this, we had some supportive events to improve sustainability, institutionalization and sustainability. Copies of Satipasala book containing 20 instructional essays were delivered to all the teachers who attended the sessions. We have created a network with cells at grassroots level for institutionalizing the program. We have established zonal level pool of trained Satipasala resource personnel at selected from all the 12 education zones in the northern province. The 2 days residential training camp was personally guided by Most Venerable Uda Iriyagama Dhammajiva Mahatero at Mipe. All the trainees were inspired to maintain the momentum at zonal level and encourage all schools in their respective zones. Zonal level officers would train about 12 ISAs on mindful school program in all the zones, in their respective zones. Mindful ambassadors at every level are being selected and trained and posted. So that is the end of my presentation. And we have gone a long way of the Satipasala program, started in March 2016. Now we are in February 2018, nearly 2 years, but we have gone a long way, including the Tamil-speaking area in the northern province. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sivagnanam, for the story of personal transformation. And as he very succinctly put it, the program, mindfulness program, Satipasala, touched the mind. That's in fact what we want. Now it's time for questions. Anyone who has a question from the panelists can ask now. The FM mics will be delivered to you. Please put your hand up. There's one there.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for accepting my invitation to come to this conference. Especially thank Upeksha on this. At the last minute, I got this opportunity. I come from Australia. I have been living in Australia for 32 years, and I see this is a different country. I don't know whether it is mindfulness or anything else. But I want to tell you, I have been listening to all these speeches, wonderful speeches yesterday, and especially this panel who are giving electrified speeches. I couldn't understand why I should not ask an electrified question. I remember, I was watching Monica Lewinsky on the YouTube, and she was saying she was the only woman in the world at the age of 45 who has declined an opportunity given by a young 27-year-old male, because she said she feels like she's getting back to her 21st birthday. So that's the reason that means that she has practiced mindfulness. Now, the situation here is you all do all this at the grassroots levels, at the children's level, at the schools. Why don't you suggest these things to the politicians in this country? Not only this country, even other countries. Now, Mr. Jayakody will agree with me when I say the Deputy Prime Minister of Australia, Mr. Barnaby Joyce, lost his job because he was not mindful. He was a family man with 4 children, 4 daughters, lovely daughters, and he was carrying on with another woman, a staffer.
Could I just interject, please? We have very little time for questions, so if you just ask your question only.
Yeah, I just gave you some background because otherwise other people may not understand what I'm trying to say. So can this panel expand what you are doing? Can you take that initiative to the politicians so that they will better understand? And because people live by example, leaders have to give that example to the...
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for the suggestion. In fact, not this panel, but Satipasala organization, foundation is in fact doing that, trying our best to do that. We had a session for the parliamentarians conducted by Most Venerable Dhammajiva Thero plus Mr. Jamie Bristow, who has done it in UK. So I'm sure Bhante will talk about it at some point in his sessions. So any other questions? Please, yeah.
I'd like to direct my question to Sivagnanam.
Can you?
Yeah.
Can't you?
You have to hold the mic to you.
Yeah, I'd like to direct my question to Mr. Sivagnanam. I know him very well. Well, you were telling about your transformation. Now you told the audience that it was the translations that you did, that was your transformation. Can you kindly tell us 2 things that you learned from the transformation? 2 things that you learned from the translations.
Translations or transformation?
Yeah. The first one is I learned to pause myself, stop everything. I was doing everything in a rush. I wanted everything to happen, immediately, as soon as I wanted. This never happened, and that made me very sad. But by going through these 20 instructional essays, there it explained about the mindfulness, what mindfulness is. Then the first day, it taught about sitting mindfully. Second day, walking mindfully. Third day, doing everything what you do, even a simple act of brushing your teeth or washing your face mindfully. That was then the last day, glad games, playing glad games. So that was the essence of the structures of these essays. So about 4 weeks, 4 into 5, 20 essays. First is introduction of mindfulness, then about sitting mindfully, walking mindfully, then doing your daily activities mindfully, then playing glad games. This was the essence. And this was expanded week by week. And after doing this, I also started living with that essays. I started doing that. Not only reading and translating, I started doing that also in my daily life. And without my knowledge, it had an hitherto unknown touch in my heart. And it fully transformed me. As you know, the madam who asked this question knew me well. I was a very boisterous fellow when I was in the Ministry of Education. Very boisterous. I spoke in very rash language and very sort of not on soft voice. So I made people unhappy. Yeah, thank you.
More, right? Yeah. So we have only 4 minutes more. So yes, please, quickly.
Yes, so my name is Suchit. I've led the Mindfulness for Children program with the Venerable Rahula's Institute in Sri Lanka. One of the experiences I had in this was, we ran this on a Saturday. Parents came with the children almost to drop them off and have a free time for themselves. And their expectations in bringing the children was, okay, my child is misbehaving, can you help my child behave? And mindfulness for them was a tool for discipline. So my question links back to the previous panel where there was observation that the children's peer-to-peer relationship didn't transform, but the relationship with the parents was seen as being transformed. I put it down to sometimes mindfulness being used to discipline, to be told to sit in a certain way and obey. So my question, and it speaks to some of what you said, the objectives of how we use mindfulness in facilitating learning experiences. What are the larger objectives that surround mindfulness training? What is dictating the context of the country, the context of the school, the diversity in the school, etc. So how do you see these linkages to the larger context of how mindfulness should be practiced?
In my opinion, I don't think we should consider mindfulness as a tool to discipline children. Rather, we must look at the bigger picture. The problem is, I think as my good friend Aloka mentioned in the morning session, when you have special sessions, the ones who come are the parents who are certainly mindful of what is happening. And we really don't get to the students who really need and benefit from the program. So the importance of having a whole school approach is, it addresses many things. Obviously, discipline improves, but I think living in the present, and you must understand today's children, the influences that they have from technology are so harmful, right? Whether it is social media or computer games or whatever, they're wired in a very different way than, what we used to be. So this definitely helps them to calm down. And I feel we shouldn't be selecting students, not even age groups for that matter. As much as possible, we should take a whole school approach. Because then, after a while, there will be a group who will want to do more. And for them, facilitating a kind of a more of a focused program is useful. But I think that getting that exposure to every single child is very important.
I think we can take one more question, just one more. Anyone, quick. Yes, please. Can you, yeah, it's here.
Yeah, my name is Prabhat. My question is for Dr. Alice. Now, what is said and done in modern times, parents are more concerned with the academic performance of their kids. Now, in your experience, have you experienced any improvement in academic performance after introducing the program?
It's too early. We've just done it for only 3 months, so obviously we'll have to see. But the initial pilot we did see an improvement, and it was statistically significant. I think a paper was also written by the team that conducted the research. I'm sure, I'm pretty confident going by what they found as well as what we are seeing and what we hear from the teachers, that it is definitely going to have an important effect. And about the timing, you have to understand it's very easy for people to say, you need to do these programs in schools, whatever. So going back to what you mentioned, finding 10 minutes of a school day is a tough task, because there are so many things, so many subjects, all that is important. And so finding 10 minutes was a challenging task. And if for parents and for students, I must tell you, especially coming from a private school's point of view, it's got to be really worthwhile for them to buy into that thing. And I'm very pleased, both are, the religious program that we have as well as the 5 minutes of mindfulness, the response is tremendous. And the parents are very, very appreciative.
Okay, I would like to express my gratitude to the panelists, all three of them, for their brilliant presentations. Thank you, sirs.
And thank you very much, Mr. Kodikara also. Could I call on Mr. Hemantha Ranawaka, please, to present the thank yous please, to our panelists and to our moderator. Firstly to Dr. Harsha Alas. Mr. Amaranath Jayakody. Mr. Muthu Sivagnanam. And to our moderator, Mr. Somabandu Kodikara. And thank you very much, gentlemen. You may step down. Immediately after this session, which we had on the experiences that each of our panelists had on mindfulness, is going to be a demonstration. Yoga for the body, yoga for the mind. And this will be conducted by the Venerable Yogavacara Rahula.
So friends, so now is the time for the yoga demonstration. Yesterday I was kind of talking about it, but now this is my demonstrator, Gitan Rajapaksa. And we're going to do a short series, because the time is short, a short series which I call Yoga for Meditators, especially yoga for mindfulness and vipassana meditators, because these exercises, through my own experience over many years, I've kind of whittled it down to specific exercises that help a person to sit in a meditation posture and to have the basic spinal flexibility and so on. So go ahead and kneel down. I'm going to be kind of talking him through that, because of this robe it's difficult to demonstrate. Get up a little closer. Okay. So this first exercise is going to be an exercise to help drain the upper lobes of trapped old air, so that the lungs become clean. So on an in-breath, raise the hands over the head, interlock the fingers, up, straighten the arms, interlock the fingers, palms up, straighten the arms, stretch the head back, and then release the hands. Out breath, bring the hands around the back, interlock the fingers again, and then lower the head to the floor. When the head touches the ground, raise the arms up. That forces the trapped air out of the upper lungs. Then lower the hands to the back and sit up on the in-breath. And just pause for a moment to feel the sensations, the effect of that. Some mindful yoga, always keeping the mind focused in the body, feeling the Vedana, the sensations. Okay, next we're going to do an exercise for limbering up the spine, and also to help activate the breathing in the three parts of the lung, the lower lobes, middle lobes, and upper lobes. So come up onto all fours. This is called the cat stretch. So have the hands underneath the shoulders, On the in-breath, you arch the spine down and lift the head up and back. On the out-breath, you arch the spine upwards and try to press the chin to the top of the chest, stretching like a cat in the morning. And then repeat that a few more times. In-breath, spine down, head up and back. You want to coordinate this with the breathing. That's how you get the effect of that. Out-breath, spine up, chin to the chest. Once more, in-breath, spine down, head up and back. Out-breath, spine up, chin to the chest. And now sit back down on the heels, keeping the hands extended out. We'll keep the hands out. Head to the floor, yes. Just pause like that for a moment, and then sit up on the in-breath. Again, just pause and feel those sensations. Just feel the body exactly as it is. This is present moment awareness. Okay, now we'll do that. So this next one is a back arch to loosen up the lower lumbar spine, which is normally, people are always stiff in those lower lumbar spinal vertebrae. So just have your fingers touching the toes, and you lean back on the straight arms, let the head go back. And on the in-breath, lift the hips off the feet as high as you can and arch upwards. The out-breath, gently lower back down. Normally we repeat these exercises 3 times. In-breath, lift up. Repeating it 3 times just helps the joints to loosen up more. And the breathing in while doing the exercises sends that oxygenated blood out through the joints and the muscle tissue. And sit back up, just pause. Okay, just keep your hands at the sides. This is going to be a neck stretch. So on the out breath, lower the head to the floor. On the next in breath, lift the hips up and roll up on top of the head to stretch the neck vertebrae, but don't overdo it, depending on the stiffness of your neck. And to stay in that position longer and take a few deep, slow breaths to feel the air going in and out of the upper lungs. Okay, then on out breath, you can sit back down on the heels, keeping the head on the floor if you can. And the in breath, sit back up. You can just pause, feel the body. Now we're going to do everybody's favorite exercise, the lion's roar face stretch, to bring a lot of blood up into the face and so on. So place the palms of the hands on the edge of the knees, and on an out breath, you're going to tense up the arms and fingers. At the same time, open the jaw and mouth as wide as you can, stick out the tongue and cross your eyes until you see double, and hold that face stretch for as long as you can with the breath out. So go ahead and do it when you're ready. So on an out breath, and you make a sound in the throat like a lion roaring. Hey, that's a pussycat. You're a lion. Don't do this around your pets at home. They'll run into a closet. Okay, now go ahead and sit. This next exercise is an exercise for to help sit in the cross-legged position, a hip opening exercise, sometimes called the butterfly or the Baddha Kona asana. So you grab a hold of the feet, and of course he's a little flexible. Most people can't get their knees down. They would be up a bit, and you would just lift the knees up. And once you do that, lift the knees up and down a bit. But if you can get the knees down, then on an out breath, lower the head down to the floor. And that even gets a more stretch on those ligaments on the inside of the groin. That's what is stiff in most people, and it doesn't allow them to really sit in like even the half lotus or the lotus posture. So and also to open up the hip sockets. Okay, now stretch the legs out straight. We're kind of going through this a little bit fast because of the time limitation, and I want to cover a few things. This next exercise, keep the legs together. The classic forward stretch. Place the hands at the chest. On the in-breath, lift the hands over the head. On the out-breath, touch the chest first, and then reach forward to touch your toes, bringing the head down toward the legs. Try to stretch out the lower spine. And then in-breath, you can sit up, hands to the chest, over the head. You can do that as a 3-time exercise. Out-breath. Then the 3rd time, keep holding on to your feet. And then on an in-breath, stretch your head backwards to straighten the arms, pulling the arms against the feet. No, stretch back. No, keep holding the feet. Stretch your head back, look up at the ceiling. The idea is to pull against the arms, fixed to your feet, to stretch the spine. Out breath, lower the head back to the floor. And you can do that 3 times. And the 3rd time you could hold it longer, but now just, that's okay. Let it come up, come up. And then just pause and feel the body exactly as it is. Okay, now draw the feet up. We're going to prepare to stand up and then come up into the squatting position. Put the hands on the floor. Again, just pause, feel the body exactly as it is. It's all the present moment awareness. And then on an in-breath, mindfully stand up. Just relax the arms and hands at the sides. Just feel your feet pressing the floor. Just mentally feel the standing body. And then begin some deep, slow breathing. Try to start the breath in your lower abdominal lobes. Try to take 4 to 6 seconds just to breathe in, drawing the air up through the middle rib cage into the upper lungs. Hold the air in the lungs for 2 or 3 seconds, and then slowly breathe out, feeling the contracting movements of the rib cage and chest. Now we're going to do a series of some standing exercises, coordinating them with this same type of deep, slow breathing, and repeating that 3 times. Again, coordinating the movement with the exercise. I mean, you can do breathing without exercise, and you can do exercise without the breathing, but if you combine them, then you get a kind of double whammy effect, because as you're stretching the joints and muscle tissue while breathing in, you have this massive amount of oxygenated blood that's going out to all the nooks and crannies, the cells and tissues of the body to charge them up. And repeating it 3 times helps to get the prana energy or life force moving up and down the limbs. That's just sort of the physiology behind it. Okay, on an in-breath, you want to push up on the, well, yeah, again, no, yeah, Do the one we did before. Raise the arms over the head, interlock the fingers. In breath, turn the palms up, straighten the arms, stretch the head back again. Out breath, just touch the top of the head. In breath, palms up, stretch the head back. Out breath, touch the head. In breath. You don't need to really bend back in this exercise, but the next time, release the palms and lower the arms back to the sides. You can just relax and feel the subtle vibrations or the effects of that exercise. You should feel, especially in the fingers and hands and arms, some subtle tingling sensation and so on due to that kind of stretch of the joints and so on. And just to feel that helps to deepen your level of awareness. And just remember standing the present moment. It's always coming back and staying grounded in the body. Then next, on an in-breath, raise the arms over the head and push up on your toes. And face the palms of the hands toward each other, and stretch up. On the out-breath, come back down. And that gets the energy flowing up and down the body in a mellow way. Again, in-breath. Just let the breath help lift and lower the body. As you're breathing in, just like a balloon, blowing up a balloon, the body raises up. Once more, in-breath. Relax. And just feel the feet pressing the floor. Feel the hands and arms hanging at the sides. Feel the clothing touching the skin on different places. Just remember standing, standing, standing. Then next we'll do side bending. So on an in-breath, raise both arms up the front, keep the hands about 6 inches apart. On the out-breath, bend over to the right side as far as you comfortably can, or to keep the arms parallel to each other, the arms and fingers straight. In-breath, lift up. Out-breath, the other side. In-breath, up. Out-breath. In-breath. Out-breath. Just stop with that one. Okay, now on an out-breath, lower the hands to the side or back down. Again, just relax. So in these exercises, we're trying to flex the spine in all the different ways, forward and backward, to the side, and even laterally from side to side, as we're going to do next. So on an in-breath, kind of jump up and spread your legs apart at least 1 meter, and hold the arms out to the side. We're going to do lateral twisting. So breathe in. Look at the right hand, and on the out breath, twist around to the right. Keep your eyes focused on the hand going backward. Let the feet turn a little bit. In breath, come back to the front. And the other side, out breath. In breath to the front, just coordinating the movement. Out breath to the right. And just feel it. chest. On an in-breath, raise your hands over the head. On the out-breath, bring the hands to the chest and bend the knees and lower yourself down. Actually, you should keep the feet wider apart in this exercise. On the in-breath, lift back up, hands over the head. Spread your feet a little farther apart. Wider the better. Okay. Out breath, again, hands to the chest, bend the knees, lower down. Again, this helps to open up the hips and the knees, which are usually the stressor points in the sitting in the lotus posture. The half lotus, in breath, come back up. Again, out breath. The out breath, lower the arms back. Again, just relax. Next, we're going to do alternate toe touching, holding the arms out. On an out breath, bring your left arm across and try to touch your right leg or foot as far as you can reach down. And then look up with the other hand over your head. It may be a little unstable, so you have to be a little bit careful. In breath, come back up. And then the other side, out breath. Right hand to the left leg or foot. In breath, come up. And once more, out breath, left hand to the right leg or foot. In breath. And then relax, out breath, hands. Now on in-breath, bring the legs back together. Jump up and bring the legs back. Okay. Now this next exercise is going to be a backward and forward bending exercise, and you have to be careful with the back bends because when you come up from a back bend, a rush of energy can come up the spine and cause the body to kind of shake a bit, or in worst case, even to black out. So you don't want that to happen. This is called the sunburst. Ideally, you'd do it facing the rising sun in the morning. So keep your palms out. On an in-breath, lift the arms up and make a gradual V with the arms until they come out to the horizontal position and bend back a little bit, not too far the first time. And then straighten up, keeping the arms out. And then on the out breath, just lower the hands down to the floor. And the head down. And then begin standing up again. Turn the palms out. Make a gradual V with the arms as you bend back. Straighten up, out breath, hands to the floor. Head down. And then to finish, as you breathe in, bring the hands together at the chest. And then back to the sides on the out breath. You can just feel the effects of that in the body. By now, the whole body should have come alive with life force vibrations, pulsations, and you just use that to help to keep the mind grounded and centered in the present moment of the body. And then once you go ahead and sit down. Okay, we're going to finish up with just some head and neck exercises because, as I mentioned before, the problem a lot of people have is keeping their head lifted up in meditations because their neck muscles are not very strong. So just sitting in any cross-legged position, try to sit straight. And on an in-breath, turn your head to the right. Try to look over your right shoulder. It's called the head turning. On the out breath, turn the head 180 degrees back to the left. Kind of look over the left shoulder. And normally you just do that 3 times. In breath to the right. Out breath to the left, concentrating into the neck vertebrae. If you have a stiff neck, just be careful as you're doing that. On the next in breath, let the head stop in the middle. Stop in the middle. Yeah. Just keep feeling the body. And then next we're going to do stretching the head backward and forward. So we're going to keep the back straight. On the in-breath, lift the chin and head up and back as far as you can. And then lift the head up, and on an out-breath, press the chin to that little notch at the top of the chest. Feel the stretch in the neck vertebrae. Just do that 3 times. In-breath, lift the head up and back. Stop. You can just feel the body. Okay, the last one is the head rolling. So press the chin to the top of the chest. On the in-breath, going to roll the head from the right, back along your shoulder, top of the shoulders, till the chin is over the left shoulder. And on an out-breath, kind of let it dangle back down. Repress the chin to the top of the chest and repeat it again. Okay, that's all we have time for. Just stop there. Okay. Normally you do it 3 times, but we're running out of time. Okay, then just feel the body. And then normally from there you could go into meditating. Just go into your meditation. Using all those sensations of the body and the posture just to help to hold the mind in the present moment. And from there, just going into your normal, awareness. Okay, it's time to levitate now, Gitan. I guess next year. Okay, so I'm sorry we had to kind of rush through it a little bit, but our time's up. So I hope you'll be able to, if you're interested, you're going to make an announcement. Okay. Remember some of these things and use it in your meditation practice if you find it helpful.
Thank you very much, Venerable Sakya. Can I have Lakshmi D'Souza up on stage just to present the Venerable Rahula with a thank you? Thank you also to his able assistant, Gehan, for the demonstration. I did see a lot of keen cameras around, recording every minute of that, and I'm sure can be used in your daily yoga routine. Thank you very much to the Venerable Rahula for taking us through that demonstration. Also, ladies and gentlemen, if there is, if any of you would like to go for a 3-day yoga retreat. That's being conducted by the Venerable Rahula, and information about that is available at the summit desk. What we are now going to have is the performance of a dramatized poem. In fact, you will find this poem in the Global Mindfulness Summit brochure. It is written, directed, produced and performed by the students of Visakha Vidyalaya, and it is based on a subject that is extremely timely for today's generation, specifically. It's on the subject of bullying. It's a dramatized poem and involves a team of about 18 students ranging from grades 6 to 11, and it is titled Living Life Through Mindfulness.
Everyone fears the very sight of me. They know I'm strong, I'm great. They let me be. They give me what I want, no matter what it takes. So back off right now I say. I'm tempted to punch you in the face. I so delight to see you whimper in fear. I see the weakness in your eyes. I smell your fear, you cowardly mouse. You never can win, you ill-fated grouch. The underdog who whimpers and shudders. Hey! Loser! Weep! And fill my void. That yearns and utters commands in my head that I must obey. Whilst my heart is twisted in pain, there's a demon in me that abides today, engulfs my being, and whilst I strain to break the shackles that makes me. Oh, I long for a parent, a friend, a mate, to help me break this cycle, my fate. Study, that's all I know. Come first. You must. You can. To show us all and make us proud, they say. My parents, teachers, brimming with hope. Tighter, winding the mighty rope. I watch with tears the children play, hearing their mirth, their peals of laughter, and I tell myself, surely after this exam, this moment, I will blossom and bloom and embrace the world and celebrate my moments that slip so fast and live this precious human birth so rare and so like an eagle, so free to dare. To live my life with grace and peace. But no, not for me. My life is writ. Come first. You must. You can. You will. My nightmare has only just begun. In school, while the other kids have fun, I am getting tortured day by day. Do what she says, act how she wants, write her notes, do her homework, relentlessly she turns. I'm always the target, just a game to play. She mocks me. Hey, loser. My life is hell. I can't take it no more. I'm trapped. I'm doomed. I can't breathe. Oh no. My chest is pounding. A knife in my heart. My mind has gone wild, shining and twisting. I'm trapped in a maze. Is no one listening? Living gets harder and harder each day. I can't take it no more. Oh, please help me today.
Never think you are alone in the world. Let us together tread step by step. Unravel, unwind. Together we will your misery end. Don't let your feelings rule your head. They come unheeded. In a moment they are dead. Like a warrior in battle who does not flee. Look it straight in the eye and make a silent call. You are but a feeling, a moment, a transient flow of an energy within us that we can let go. Stress is a creature that grows in our minds. It will stifle us till we cannot breathe no more. Your breath is your friend in times good and bad. Your breath is your anchor that steadies your mind. Your breath is your savior in turbulent times. So settle down in the here and now. Be mindful of the present. It will calm you down. Success is not about showing the world. Let the harsh voice of judgment drop to a whisper. Remember again, life is not a relay. You will cross the finish line someday.
And you, my friend, the strong and bold, why behave in a manner so harsh? Let go of self-judgment, the old learned ways. Don't beat yourself up. No, not today. Allow the dialogue within the mind to grow friendlier, quieter, and truly kind. Together, we can build bridges so strong. So unlock your heart, release the knot of fear, forgive yourself, and let the kindness flow. Your breath is your friend in times good and bad. Your breath is your anchor that steadies your mind. Your breath is your savior in turbulent times. So settle down in the here and now. The amity of mindfulness may you always find. Slowly, mindfully, and silently, may you forever enshrine.
Those were the students of Visakha Vidyalaya dealing with a subject that most young people dread, bullying. The poem was called Living Life Through Mindfulness, and it is in your book, in your GMS book, which you can read later on. Also, just to make that announcement about the yoga retreat, it's a 3-day yoga retreat with Venerable Rahula. If anyone would like to join it, please, there's information at the summit desk. Also, just a note about tomorrow morning. There will be a mindful walking session, as you know. We would like to begin that at sharp 8:15. However, the walking session will be in another venue, but we want you all to gather here in the auditorium for some instructions, and you'll be led after that for that half-an-hour walk. The mindful walking demonstration will be conducted by the students of Sati Pasala. So you will be led by children. Sometimes being led by children with their innocence and their very fresh take on life is sometimes very refreshing and gives adults like us a few good lessons to learn. We move now to our next session, which is a mindfulness in different Buddhist meditation traditions. I would like to invite our moderator, who's the Venerable Dhammajiva, on stage. And His fellow speakers and panelists will be the Very Venerable Ringu Tulku Rinpoche. Can we have you on stage too, sir? Venerable Panadure Chandaratana, Professor Lionel Tennakoon, and the Venerable Ma Vajira. As has been the practice for the earlier sessions, Venerable Dhammajiva, the speakers will have 12 minutes each to make their presentations, and the balance of the time for the Q&A discussion. Venerable Dhammajiva, the timer is over there. 12 minutes for each speaker, and then discussion time with Q&A from the audience.
Do you have the sequence? Do you have the sequence?
Yes, it would be Venerable Rinpoche, Venerable Panadure Chandaratana, and Professor Lionel Tennakoon. Venerable Ma Vajira will not be speaking.
Dear Venerable monks, Bhante, and the other religious masters and leaders, mindful friends. It's a session about the mindfulness in different traditions, and this is the first time I am going to listen from the Tibetan tradition. So 12 minutes each for each panelist. I would like to invite Venerable Rinpoche to present his teaching of mindfulness according to his tradition, please. Thank you very much. I come from Tibetan, you can say, Vajrayana tradition of Buddhism. And I think I have to say this, that the Tibetan Vajrayana tradition of Buddhism basically comes from the Nalanda University of India tradition, where all the different schools of Buddhism at that time were studied and practiced together. In this tradition, we try to study and practice the Shravakayana as the basic, as the foundation of all Buddhist practices. Vinaya is regarded as the foundation of all practices. Vinaya is very important, and that's regarded as the main practice. On top of that, then the bodhisattvas, bodhisattvayana, or sometimes we call it Mahayana practices, are very much studied and practiced. And on top of that, then tantras or Vajrayana practices are also practiced and studied, and all these three are studied and practiced on one person. Regarding the mindfulness which is
You call it Sati here. I think it's called Smriti in Sanskrit, Tenpa in Tibetan. This generally is a part of what we call this 37 Bodhipaksha. And there we talk about 4 mindfulnesses. Mindfulness of the body, mindfulness of the feelings, mindfulness of the mind, and mindfulness of the Dhamma, or all the phenomena. Now, from the Tibetan Buddhist point of view, we work or practice these mindfulnesses kind of in 2 stages. One as an analytical meditation, and one as non-analytical meditation. Analytical meditation is, and all these 3 is 4 mindfulnesses are usually considered or placed in the Vipassana meditation, not shamatha meditation. And when we do the analytical meditation, then we try to analyze, or whether it's done with logic and analytical kind of way of thinking, or we do it from our experiential way of looking at how the things are, whether it's body or feelings or the mind or all the dhammas. We try to understand the changing nature of these phenomena. And through that, we understand the impermanent nature of things. And that leads us to understand the momentariness of all the experiences we have. And that leads us to what we call shunyata, or emptiness understanding, which is an understanding of interdependence, understanding of that everything appears and keeps on appearing, but there is no true substance or true reality in that. That's the analytical part of the thing. But then when we use it on our non-analytical way of meditation, then I think it is not different from what we usually, what is being usually practiced by many different schools of Buddhism, by many different ways. Actually, it comes to the same thing. It's about being aware. Being aware. You relax your body, you relax your mind, you try to be as natural as possible, not letting your mind wander into the past or speculating the future, and not even kind of reacting to the present, but just being. And this is easier said than done, because we are not used to just be. We are always used to do and run after things, run away from things. So therefore, this is something is very, very simple in one way, but very, very difficult in another way. To learn how to do this, sometimes because it's not our habit. So therefore, it is something which is very important for us to do, to work on, to keep on doing. Actually, there is nothing to do, but you have to keep on doing. Sometimes they say, there is nothing to meditate, but you have to keep on meditating. So therefore, this is, I think maybe I have crossed the timeline, I don't know. So maybe I'll give to the next one. Is it? 4 minutes. Oh, you have still 4 minutes to go. Okay. So this is the tradition, and of course there are different ways of. We also have this what we call as the pith instruction meditations, which is not. Of course, it is based on the treatises and the sutras and things like that, but it is also the experience of great masters. Those great masters who have studied all those that I've been talking about, sutras, tantras, and their commentaries, and then essentialize all those very kind of varied and very extensive teachings and practices into very kind of pith and essential instructions. And there are many of these lineages in Tibet. There are something called Mahamudra teachings, Dzogchen, or Great Perfection teachings, Lamde, or the Path and Result teachings, Ju, which is like cutting through teachings, and then various of them which came kind of directly from India to Tibet. And each of them have a kind of a unbroken lineage. A lineage, as you know, is like a teacher practices those and really becomes completely adept in those meditations and practices, and then he or she passes that on to his or her students, and then in the same way that's being passed on. And that experience, which is unbroken, is what we call lineage. And in Tibet, that lineage is regarded very important. So therefore, this is how meditations are done. And then sometimes people go into retreat for many years, like 3 years, 3 months, 3 days. Sometimes this is a kind of a set of, it's a kind of a tradition, what we call three-year meditation. And why this 3-year meditation is because it is said that we usually have a kind of samsaric breathing and wisdom breathing. We all have usually samsaric breathing and wisdom breathing. And if all our wisdom breathing that kind of happens in one lifetime, if in case we live up to 100 years, then it will be 3 years, 3 months, and 3 days. And this is the idea that if somebody can be in that state of mind, in that mindful state of mind, wisdom breathing state, for that period, if one can continuously be in that state of mind for 3 years, 3 months, and 3 days, then that person can become fully enlightened. Of course, I don't know how many people can do that, but that's why these 3-year retreats. But there's also one thing I think it's very important, and this is very much part of the whole thing. You know, generally in Buddhism, and this is how we understand what we were told, our main motivation should be that we become fully enlightened, but not only fully enlightened just for ourselves, but for all the sentient beings. And we work for the welfare of all the sentient beings, and that should be the motivation. I think yesterday also somebody was saying something about motivation. The motivation why we do this becomes very, very important. So we work on the motivation, but then, you know, some people do it for that. Some people do it for my own liberation. Some people do it for my next lives. And some people can do it for just this life or for these lives, this society and our own. So whichever would be the, you know, whatever would be the motivation, if it is a good motivation, then these practices can be done. But whether these practices becomes, how greatly beneficial it becomes, depends on what kind of motivation we have. So thank you.
Thank you, Venerable Rinpoche. I myself, Dhammajiva myself, is born Buddhist in this famous traditional Theravada tradition. And at the age 26, when the mindfulness is introduced, I was not following the traditional Theravada. I was in the science kind of teaching. And when the Venerable Dhammika, the Australian monk, when teaching me, it was going together with the Mahayana readings, something like Zen Buddhism. It was quite a different way for me as a beginner to start mindfulness. So now I have about 40 years of experience. Today we are meeting here to give this mindfulness to the young children, school children, and you have to see cutting off of all the religious barriers, language barriers, cultural barriers, and other ethnic barriers. Even if we agreed upon this mindfulness as the one tenet, within that mindfulness also there are a lot of other shadows, shades of meaning. So that means before we go into the child, we must have very clear which one we are going to present. So therefore, that is why this panel we are going to discuss within the mindfulness, with the subject of mindfulness, different shades of meanings are there. So we must understand and we must agree upon what is the thing we are going to teach the children. So we'll listen to the other speakers also and try to extract the best, simplest, straightforward thing for the children. So with that, I would like to hand over the mic to Chandaratana, and he will present his ideas, please.
Dear members of the Sangha, members of the clergy, and friends in mindfulness. So actually I hope to cover mindfulness in Theravada tradition, and the topic will be highly theoretical, and hope you all be mindful and don't fall asleep. So basically the Pali term Sati is translated as mindfulness, and it appears in several places in 37 factors of enlightenment. Basically sometimes we call as 37 aids to enlightenment. So we know that the 4 foundations of mindfulness, where one is mindful about the body, mindful about feelings, mindful about the mind, and then mindful about various states of the mind. And again, once it develops further, one reaches the faculty level where one can distinguish within among among other various mental qualities, that mindfulness is present. At that time, we consider it as a faculty or indriya. There again, mindfulness appears. And again, in the further development, it comes to a level of power where one understands that one is under the boundary of mindfulness. So he feels that as a power. And then it leads to the 7 enlightenment factors, where mindfulness appears as the first factor. And then in the last part, that is the 8 path factors, there it appears as the 7th factor. And then once it comes to the mindfulness, Satipatthana Sutta is the most prominent sutta which appears in Theravada and Mahayana and everywhere. Actually, once it comes to Satipatthana, so we will first look at the Theravada part. So it appears in Majjhima Nikaya and again in the Digha Nikaya as Satipatthana Sutta. And first it starts with breathing, mindfulness about breathing, and then mindfulness about postures. You know that we have main 4 postures, and then Buddha extends this to the other postures as well. And then going further towards various other activities. And then it leads to anatomical parts, and then 4 elements meditation, and then various decaying stages of a corpse. Then, as I said, this is not unique to Theravada, but it still available in Mahayana as well. So in the Chinese Agama books, it is still available. So in the Madhyama Agama, it is quite elaborative, and it has certain unique parts as well. Then another part is Ekottarika Agama, another Mahayana book coming in from the Chinese tradition, that is somewhat close to our Pali tradition. Then that is more related to the body, be mindful about the body. But further, when one develops mindfulness related to the body, one may be able, or one may be in a better position to understand feelings. There in the Majjhima Nikaya, there are 3 main feeling tones, particularly the pleasurable feelings, then the painful feelings, and the neutral feelings. And then in the Madhyama Agama, also the same, but in the latter part, it has elaborated into 18 types. And again in the Ekottarika Agama, it leads to the same as in the Pali canon. Then if one develops further, the practitioner can further leads to understand about the mind, and there are various pairs appear in the Majjhima Nikaya and in the Digha Nikaya, where one may aware that whether mind is lustful or not lustful, whether mind is deluded or not deluded, whether mind is happy or not happy, like that. Then quite similar approach is there in the Madhyama Agama and the Ekottarika Agama. And then when it comes to the Dhammas, where one lead further analyzing or fairly understanding the unique qualities of the mind, and there in the Theravada tradition it is quite elaborative, and similarly in the other traditions as well. So when I was talking about these things, actually mindfulness helps as a balancing factor, because as we are developing mindfulness, it is necessary to know that how the other qualities impact. So for example, when one is meditating, he has to balance the effort and the concentration, and he has to balance faith along with the wisdom. And so in the balancing of the enlightenment factors, Buddha says that there are certain enlightenment factors one needs to practice only at a particular time. Say for example, if mind is sluggish, only a part of enlightenment factors are to be developed, and yet the other part should not be developed. And on the other hand, if the mind is in an excited state, so certain other enlightenment factors are to be developed. But interestingly, Buddha says that mindfulness is something necessary at all times. Another important characteristic is that appears in the Noble Eightfold Path, which comes as the middle in the concentration restraint, where Samma Sati appears in between Samma Vayama and Samma Samadhi, where the right mindfulness appears as the between factor. And mindfulness prepares the ground for wisdom. So this is another area which is quite helpful in the education sector, where according to Anapanasati Sutta, these enlightenment factors are happening in a sequential manner. So the second enlightenment factor, which is more related with the wisdom, appears consequently after the mindfulness. Then Sati prepares the ground for arising of this investigation factor. And in the particular sutta, which comes in the Sutta Nipata, where Buddha says mindfulness is kind of a restrainment, and the wisdom is we are helping to uproot the defilement. So again in the suttas, Buddha discusses about correct mindfulness and wrong mindfulness as well. For example, in Salleka Sutta, which comes in the Majjhima Nikaya, where Buddha says his followers that please have the correct mindfulness even though the others may have wrong mindfulness. And again in the Avijja Sutta, which comes in the Anguttara Nikaya, Buddha says if one starts with ignorance, it can lead to wrong mindfulness. So it is necessary to have proper understanding, then only one may have proper or correct mindfulness. Then so we have various ways of understanding our own knowledge, kind of assessing our own knowledge. And in a particular sutta, Buddha says that one may gain knowledge just merely by faith, maybe by personal preference based on one's likes and dislikes, and again by inheriting a particular oral tradition, and maybe just by going through a logical analyzing or reasoning, and just accepting a kind of a view. At last, Buddha says the best method is the direct experience. That is where the Satipatthana comes. And mindfulness plays a protective function, where Buddha explains that when, for example, for monks, when they are going for alms round, to establish oneself in mindfulness, because there may be certain unhealthy signs or scenes available on the way. And again, when particular Brahmin asks what is the refuge for the mind or what is the protection for the mind, Buddha directly says it is a mindfulness. And again Buddha says that ask monks to don't leave your ancestral domain and remain there, that is your refuge, and that is nothing but the four Satipatthanas. And again the Noble Eightfold Path, sometimes Buddha referred as the divine vehicle, and there the wise charioteer is the mindfulness. So when one is mindful, he has a better position to maintain his say attention. So therefore, whatever the actions he done or whatever the words he say, he can properly recall, and again he can really remember, and later time he can simply recall it easily. In a particular sutta called Nagarupama Sutta, there Buddha says when kind of a city has a really wise gatekeeper, he only allows the people only which is necessary for the country or to the city, and simply do not allow the others. So this is another area, because meditation is not just at the mindfulness level, but it leads to the concentration as well. But concentration, I would say, as a kind of a result of developing fairly developed mindfulness. And for example, in the jhanas, so one may enters into jhana, stays in the jhana and emerges from the jhana, and even after emerging from jhana, he may reflect the constituent factors based on the mindfulness. And the third jhana and the fourth jhana, the absorptions, the stock phrases are directly represents that there is mindfulness. So I just basically cover certain salient features available in the Theravada tradition, but it is not just unique to Theravada, but it is even available in other traditions as well. So mindfulness is available in Zen tradition, and again mindfulness, for example, just to give you another just a briefing, one teacher called Shunryu Suzuki, who is a Zen teacher, and he says we have to have a kind of beginner's mind, not to kind of condition your mind as an expert, because the expert's mind sometimes blocks what's going to happen. Rather, when you have an open, receptive mind as a beginner, kind of a fresh mind, then it is quite easy to develop mindfulness. So there are again these practices are available not only in these traditions, but again in Japan. I found one called in Shikansa Zen, where kind of a Japanese tradition available, and they do this type of meditation mainly based on sitting. So with that, I conclude my presentation, and thank you very much.
It's quite an elaborated presentation from the canon and all the literary part. So, you know, Chandaratana is conducting retreats, and over there he is taking one or the other sutras and explain in detail, so that once you started mindfulness, there are a lot of other ways and means to continue. So now I would like to listen to the Professor Tennakoon, and he is from Goenka tradition, and not only that, he himself started another movement, something like Satipasala, teaching in the schools. So therefore, we can expect some how to make the concoction out of these mindful things to give it to the child, so that starting once happen, according to the wish and the desire of the child, it will develop. So we listen to him also from the so-called the Goenka system, as well as his experience pertaining to the teaching in the classrooms, please.
So, venerable members of the clergy and distinguished guests. So, my presentation is on Goenkaji tradition. Next, please. The origin of the tradition we'll have to consider. Arahant, Sona and Uttara, these fully liberated monks, were the Dhamma messengers of Emperor Dhammasoka to Burma. They predicted that the meditation technique they are teaching will be preserved in pristine purity in Burma, and around 2500 Buddhist era, it will be brought back to India, and thereafter Vipassana will grow all over the world. That means insight meditation. So in Burma, the line of Buddhist monks meditating in forest dwellings practiced and preserved this technique for centuries. This meditation technique was taught only by Buddhist monks. Next, please. Agamaha Pandita Venerable Lady Sayadaw, 1846 to 1923, visited India in 1911. He learned that introducing Buddhist meditation techniques to India should be accomplished by a lay teacher to obtain a better public acceptance. The first layman who learned Buddhist meditation techniques from Venerable Lady Sayadaw in Burma was Saya Tedgi. He was a wealthy farmer. Saya Tedgi taught Sayaji Uba-King, who was later the Accountant General of Burma, who in turn taught S.N. Goenka, who was an industrialist in Burma. Next slide, please. S.N. Goenka introduced this technique of meditation to India in June 1969. Since then, the technique of meditation is known as taught by Goenka in the tradition of Sayaji Uba King. This is nothing but the original meditation tradition introduced by Arahants, Sona and Uttara, and preserved by the line of Buddhist monks and the three lay teachers mentioned above. Next slide, please. Goenka ji conducted the first 10-day course on July 3rd, 1969 for his parents and 10 others in Bombay in India. As predicted, the wheel of Vipassana started turning rapidly in India and throughout the world. By 1996, 400 10-day courses were conducted in India and 300 courses in 35 other countries throughout the world. By that time, 38,000 students had followed the 10-day course. Next, please. The technique taught by S.N. Goenka goes back 2.5 millennia to the Buddha. The Buddha never taught a sectarian religion. He taught Dhamma, the way to liberation which is universal. In the same sense, Goenkaji's approach is totally non-sectarian. For this reason, his teaching has had a profound appeal to people of all backgrounds, of every religion, and those who are not following any religion, and from every part of the world. Next, please. Today, Vipassana courses in the tradition of Goenka ji are held at 310 locations in 94 countries, of which about 176 are permanent Vipassana meditation centers. These centers are in the United States, Canada, Australia, Brazil, Argentina, Mexico, Hong Kong, Mongolia, South Korea, Taiwan, Cambodia, Indonesia, Malaysia, Israel, Poland, Russia, Austria, Belgium, New Zealand, France, Germany, Spain, Italy, Switzerland, Sweden, United Kingdom, South Africa, Japan, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Myanmar, Thailand, Philippines, and 78 centers in India. Next, please. Goenka meditation centers in Sri Lanka, there are 4 centers. First is Dhammakuta Vipassana Meditation Center at Peradeniya. Second, Dhammasoba in Lower Koskama in Koskama area. Third, Dhamma Anuradha in Anuradhapura, and Dhamma Dharani at Mane Iruvaneyagampa. Next, please. The beginners following this tradition are required to undergo their first course, which is of 10 days duration, while observing 5 precepts. So the minimum period of this Goenka tradition meditation courses, minimum period is 10 days. 10-day courses are held at both center and non-center locations. Whereas the Satipatthana, which is an 8-day course, 20, 30, 45 and 60-day courses are conducted only in centers while observing 8 precepts. So initial course is held with the observance of 5 precepts, and longer courses with the observance of 8 precepts. At all courses of this tradition, students have to strictly observe noble silence. So that means that during the whole period of the course, noble silence has to be observed. So no one can talk to each other. Only the observing noble silence means that no conversation with fellow students during the whole period of the course, including the rest periods until the metta session, which is usually held on the last day of the course. Students can talk only with the conducting teacher by appointment and the Dhamma server according to the gender for essential needs. Morality, sila, is established in the courses by observing precepts facilitated by noble silence. New students are initially trained to observe the in-breath and out-breath, anapana, flowing through the nostrils. Then they are trained to observe the flow of the natural breath below the nostrils and above the upper lip, as well as observe bodily sensations on an area of the size of a fingertip in the same region. Next, please. Having mastered the observations at this particular point, they are directed to observe the sensations at the top of the head. So that means initially we will have to get the mindfulness based on this area where the breath touches this area, and then after observing the breath going up and down, you have to observe whatever bodily sensations which is taking place in the same area. Then the students are directed to pay their attention to the top of the head and observe the sensations there. Then the students are directed to pay their attention and observe sensations on different parts of the body, starting from the top of the head to various points on the head, face, throat, shoulders, two hands, chest area, abdomen, neck, back area of the body and lower parts of the body. Two thighs, two legs and the tips of the toes. Then the process is repeated from the tips of the toes to the top of the head. This is called observing sensations part by part on the body. It must be clearly understood that no attention be paid to the anatomy of the body, but to the observation of the rising and ceasing of the bodily sensations. Next, please. Finally, students are taught to scan the whole body from top of the head to the tips of the toes and vice versa, feeling the bodily sensations. This technique trains the yogis to start their meditation using anapana and gradually master their minds to observe the bodily sensations throughout the body in increasing rapidity. In all courses, 1/3 of the time is devoted to anapana and 2/3 of the time is devoted to observing the rising and ceasing of sensations. That is to observe the impermanence, that is the anicca, and finally at the end of the course, usually on the last day or last 2 days in long courses, sessions on loving kindness is given. Having mastered the scanning procedure while observing sensations arising and ceasing both on the body and inside the body also, one is led to gain bhanga jnana, insight into the process of dissolution of the phenomena of matter, as well as rising and ceasing of the sensations. So, arising and ceasing of not only the dissolution of matter, but as well as arising and ceasing of the sensations, that is nama and rupa both, the impermanence of both nama and rupa. This is a stage one experiences the dissolution of the apparent solidity of the body into subtle vibrations which are arising and passing away. This is an extremely pleasant experience. Students are taught to observe this condition with equanimity, avoiding the formation of greed-based attachment. If equanimity is not established, it is a fearful condition, bhaya jnana, as this generates more and more greed-based kamma, which increases misery. Establish mindfulness about the bodily sensation with firm determination to eradicate defilements, developing wisdom, which is called anicca vijja jnana, that is knowledge of impermanence. This leads to the realization of dukkha jnana and anatta jnana, knowledge of suffering or unsatisfactoriness and non-self. To establish mindfulness of impermanence, concentration, samadhi must be good. In this tradition, Anapana is initially practiced to establish samadhi. Goenkaji's tradition starts with awareness sati, initially based on Anapana and then on sensations. Then this leads to anicca, impermanence, observing impermanence of the sensations. Then leads to wisdom, sampajanya, established wisdom of impermanency. Then leads to upekha, equanimity, developing non-attachment to pleasant feelings and non-aversion to unpleasant feelings and non-delusion to neutral feelings. Establishing moment-to-moment equanimity avoids the formation of new sankhara. Then previously committed sankhara comes up as resultants or vipakas. Then equanimity is established for these sensations as well. We allow the previous sankhara to be used up, purifying the mind. Now, so there are sections of vipassana jnana. Then I'll go on to the meditation for children. Change the, right, that one. Meditation for children are held around the world at schools, camps, etc., and also at meditation centers as one-day courses. The Anapana course was designed for 8 to 16-year-olds, but sometimes teenagers up to 18 can attend. Then, the most striking children's course conducted by Goenkaji tradition is this. From 2012, in Maharashtra state, India, all school children between the ages of 6 to 19, enrolled in 25 million students, compulsorily practice Anapana meditation daily for 10 minutes each in the morning and evening. This project is known as Mind in Training for Right Awareness, Mitra, initiated by Goenka Vipassana Meditation Center. Now, this is compulsory. This is compulsory and all instructions are given by the Maharashtra state government. Religious composition of students in Maharashtra: Hindu 75%, Muslim 13.2%, Buddhist 6.7%, Catholic 2.3%, Sikh 1.9%, Jaina 0.5%, and other 0.4%. But all these students do the practice in the classrooms in the presence of the teachers. And by 2004, this started in 2012. By 2014, 100,000 school teachers have participated in the program. So 100,000 teachers, school teachers, as well as 25 million school children have benefited daily from this program. So benefits of meditation for children have been discussed. Rise in IQ levels, academic stress goes down, improved academic achievement, better focus, brain integrity and efficiency, reduction in depression and anxiety, reduction in destructive addiction, drugs and alcohol, lower absenteeism, better behavior, lower risk of cardiovascular diseases, happier and more confident students. I'll give one few seconds. How Goenkaji tradition is preserved. All the centers throughout the world follow the same timetable. All courses are conducted free of charge, and teachers and assistant teachers are volunteers. All centers are run on donations from all students only. In conducting courses, all instructions, chanting and discourses prepared by Goenkaji in English or Hindi are played first, and if there is a bilingual course, an approved translation to local languages will also be played. Teachers, assistant teachers conducting courses for Goenkaji are given strict instructions not to add, subtract, or alter any of Goenkaji's preparations mentioned above. So, religion sets us not apart. It teaches peace and purity of heart. Rather than converting people from one organized religion to another organized religion, we should try to convert people from misery to happiness, from bondage to liberation, and from cruelty to compassion. This is a statement given by Goenka ji. May all beings be happy, be happier, be peaceful, and be fully liberated. Thank you for listening. Thank you very much. May you all be happy.
Thank you, Professor. This is one tradition came from Burma and start well established in India also. And there's one of the traditions started teaching mindfulness in the schools. So therefore we in Satipasala can learn from that, because the non-sectarial, volunteering, and kind of a standardization, these are the things we have to learn from this Goenka tradition. And it is catching in Maharashtra, in the education department and the policy level. And I think Professor started even in Sri Lanka also. So in future we are going to work parallelly together with our Satipasala foundation. And I would like to present Ma Vajira, still going to represent another Burmese kind of a tradition. They themselves have Buddhist cultural program teaching young children, and we would like to listen from her how the Mahasi system and this Buddhist cultural program go together, and how far we can share the experience with mindfulness.
It's a very broad topic. So, Bhante, that is a very broad topic to speak about this. So, well, how does it go hand in hand? As I mentioned earlier, Sayalay wanted children to develop appamada, the ability to be able to live never separated from mindfulness. And this means to refrain from doing things which are wrong, and to not neglect one's responsibility to refrain from such things, to not neglect to do the things that are good to do. And so as such, I mean, this is considered the elephant's footprint, into which all the teachings of the Buddha can be encompassed in that single word. So how it is done on a practical level, the children come to Panditarama and to other branch centers. The number of children is basically determined by how many rooms we have. We always turn people away. There's never a lack of students coming to this. The residential program is 4 weeks long, and we teach the children scripture as well as the Sakya rules for samaneras. All the children ordain as novices and nuns, almost all. And the families who enroll them are Buddhist. The children identify as Buddhist. So with this, they learn the basics of Buddhism, such as who is the Buddha, what is the Dhamma, what is the Sangha. How do we keep morality? What are the 5 precepts? What are the consequences of not keeping the 5 precepts? What are the benefits that are gained from keeping them? And so on. And it builds up. There are 4 levels, and we have books that are set up for each level, each of the 4 years. So beginning, middle. Anyhow, there's just 4 graded levels of classes. And parents consider this very, very, very important training for their children. It teaches them a lot. The child who I just spoke to recently said what he likes about it is that he learns about the Buddha, and he likes the disciplined environment. So the children all have to learn, how does a monk have to behave? How does a nun have to behave? How do you have to wear the robes? How do you have to conduct yourself when you're walking from one place to another, when you're eating your food? They all have to be mindful at the times when they are doing these activities. Plus they have 4 classes a day. And then they have speakers come in from outside, including the state councilor of Myanmar, Daw Aung San Suu Kyi, usually comes every year to give a talk. People come speak about health, speak about how to take care of your eyes, what is needed to have good health. So many types of things that they would not otherwise learn if they were not in the program. So why Sayadaw taught this, started this program, is that nobody reset the timer. It's already on 13 minutes. So Sayadaw started this program, as I mentioned, because he foresaw that there will be a break. There already was a break in the generations of people that knew the basic Buddhist culture. Although Burmese culture is not the same as Buddhist culture, Burmese culture is founded in Buddhist culture, and it's very important for the Buddhists to know this, to know their basic culture. And with the series of governments, the British government, the military government, people have been really come very much divorced from the basic traditional values. And if Sayadaw saw that if we don't train children, then it's going to be lost, pretty much. He said that adults can learn. He said, on one hand, that adults who have grown up without the basic values are like ships whose bows have been broken. No point in taking the time to fix them. So you should just focus on developing generations of young children, one after another. So for 50 plus years, this program has been happening. And it's because as the children grow up, as young people, they learn good values. As adults, they can become capable teachers, leaders, parents. So it's very important for society. For adults who haven't gotten the basic values, as children, the best way is for them to go on a meditation retreat and to gain practical experience of the Dhamma, because then their minds get changed by what they learn. So for the next part of my talk, I would like to talk about two aspects of mindfulness. One is mindfulness in terms of the development of intensive meditation practice. And the other is mindfulness in a more, excuse me. Thank you, Bhante. Please excuse me. Thank you. Someone asked Sayadaw about the importance of developing sati. And he said that first of all, what is more important is to develop yoniso manasikara, to develop wise consideration, because this is the arrowhead of the mind. Manasikara directs the mind to, it's like steering on a car. And if one's consideration is suitable, wise, then the mind goes in a wholesome direction. So wholesomeness and right mindfulness do not occur without wise consideration. There has to be yoniso manasikara for sati to arise. If there's unwise consideration, that is applying one's attention to harming others, for example, pulling the trigger on a gun, this is wrong sati. And it is headed by wrong consideration, yoniso manasikara. So Sayadaw said that, well, what is this manasikara? It's a bit like, as he said, that steering on the car. If you're going to go someplace in a car, you need to know on what side of the road do they drive in this country? And then you need to do accordingly. You need to follow the traffic signs, and you need to steer the car in the right direction. You can't straddle the lane. You have to stay in your lane. And to live with manasikara is, or yoniso manasikara is like that, similar to that. So as you steer, there you go. And in order for mindfulness, right mindfulness to arise, this manasikara, yoniso manasikara, is essential. In meditation practice, there's two things I want to say about this. As Venerable Ringu Tulku Rinpoche said, the basic is the Vanaya. And so, first of all, there must be a grounding of sila. So what is sila? Restraining ourselves from doing wrong physically and verbally. And we have to understand that, well, what are the things that we shouldn't do? We shouldn't kill. What happens if I kill somebody? As we all know, I will go to jail. I could be attacked by the victim's family. I will blame myself. People will blame me. And I suffer bad consequences in this life as well as in the next. So killing is something that I shouldn't do because it harms me. And also, I should understand that how would I feel if someone were to try to kill me? I wouldn't like it. So I can understand also that others don't like violence to be done to them, and therefore it's something I should refrain from. So people have to have a grounding in sila, first of all, to consider the actions that are gross misdeeds, killing. What's wrong with killing? One has to know. It brings harm to ourselves, it brings harm to others, and we should refrain from doing it, both out of a sense of that this is a very gross deed that we shouldn't do, that dirties us in a way, and also that it harms others. So we should not do it. And we can consider the other actions such as stealing. How do we feel if we're stolen from? Adultery. How do we feel if our partner has an affair? All sorts of things that we can consider how we would feel if someone else were to break sila and harm us. And how do we feel when we commit those acts and then have to live with the results? So we can consider also, so right action, right speech, not to lie, not to slander, not to to have harsh speech, not to have frivolous talk. And when we keep right speech and right action, then our livelihood is automatically right. So while we're on retreat, of course, we're not in a situation where we will break sila. We're not being involved in situations, as Mr. Lionel said, that we keep silence during retreats, so there's no breaking of the right speech. But we have the chaitana to not harm, and this is how it's called chaitana sila is perfected when we are on retreat. So for right mindfulness is actually part of the samadhi group of the path. And one has to have right effort to prevent unwholesomeness to arise, effort to create goodness and to develop it further and further. And from that, there comes right mindfulness. So with right effort, in practice, one has to observe the arising object. Always guard the mind with vigilant mindfulness. Observe at the moment of the arising object. And so in the Mahasi method, we make the effort to observe the arising object of Kaya Vedana Citta Dhamma, beginning with the rising and falling of the abdomen. And the effort to do that blocks out laziness. When we make effort to observe the arising object, the mind can't get slack. Laziness is what allows unwholesome mind states to arise. But effort alone is not enough. We have to have aiming that makes our effort just right. If the effort is excessive, then the mind slips off the object. And if the effort to observe the object is weak, then the mind doesn't get there. So every time the abdomen rises, every time the abdomen falls, we have to try to observe it. And as we do so, with every effort that we make, there's a bit of mindfulness, this right effort to keep the mind on the object brings with it mindfulness. But the mindfulness is not very strong yet. It has to be occur again and again and again, continuously. So, I'm still on track. Okay, so with the, eventually what happens as we keep on making effort, at first we don't see the results, but we keep on making effort to observe the object, and the mindfulness gets to a point where it sticks with the object. It stays with the rising from the beginning to end. It stays with the falling from beginning to end. And so Sati guards the mind. It is said, areka warana goti. It protects the mind by preventing kilesas from entering into the mind stream. And this makes the mind protected, which brings freedom. Yeah, I'm looking at the timer. I'm sorry.
No,
I saw the timer.
Q&A time.
Oh, I'm sorry. So that's all for today.
So by listening to the four systems presented and how to make use it, when we are presenting it to a young child, maybe without the background of the Buddhist perspective or cultural perspective, how can we incorporate it into a project like Satipasala? By listening to the sister, I have seen it, and it is very well going with our Sunday schools, Buddhist as well as the Catholic, and they are with their own tradition, so this knowledge we can use. But with the professor's understanding with and the Maharashtra presentation, it is connected with our day-to-day curriculum in the conventional classrooms. And I, as a Mindful Foundation, the founder, I find in the Goenka system that they are presenting, I discussed with the professor, there is no walking meditation. So therefore, I found introducing that kind of activities much valuable with children. And residential, if you are going to do something like a mindful camps, we can gain some experience from the Burmese cultural program. And as far as the mindfulness or in the mindful school is concerned, we try to give the beginner's mind according to the D.T. Suzuki, Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. It's a very famous book. And he took the tradition from the Theravada and presented to the Mahayana under the name, the Zen Buddhism, Zen Mind, the Beginner's Mind. With that, my interpretation, I would like to open the floor for any questions, if you have to raise towards a particular speakers, please. If each panelist, if they wish to know other panelist question, it's also open. To share our traditions, because we in Satipasala are going to get the main advantage of the all experience they have and refining the policy matters as well as the timetable as the standardization. We are going to get the advantage of this all of your traditions.
Namaskara Veva. My name is Jamini Samaratunga and I'm a psychologist, a coach and a trainer. With the past years working with people one-on-one, individually, not necessarily using mindfulness, but of course recently I have integrated mindfulness in my therapy. One thing I have observed is that when it comes to certain areas of our lives, we can be easily mindful. Whereas another area of our life, it can be very challenging to be mindful for the simple reason there's a lot of emotional charge, maybe due to traumatic experiences or past painful experiences. So are there situations where you integrate some other therapeutic approaches before practicing mindfulness to help someone ease off the emotional charge which is normally experienced physically? As mind and body is connected, therefore they affect each other. So before coming into mindfulness practice, sometimes a therapeutic approach is needed and it's really helpful. Can you provide some explanations from any traditions or approaches to mindfulness?
I think, mindfulness practice is a training. And when it is a training, it's not something that we can immediately do it and have the maximum effect. A training means that the more we do it, then slowly more we become better in doing that. So I think it is not expected that as soon as you start to train in the mindfulness meditation, that you are able to be mindful all the time. That's not expected. Then it's too easy. So maybe we can be, even if we are a little bit mindful for some seconds, some minutes, some times in the day, that can, I think, give us a certain kind of confidence, certain kind of understanding that, yes, we can be mindful sometimes. Suppose, if I have I'm doing something and there is, you are a little bit mindful, you get reminded of the mindfulness, you are mindful, and then you are able to let go of that particular emotion or distraction or certain negative effects of that. Then you know that this is something very, very good and very useful, and so therefore I have to be a little bit more trained in that. And then if I first can do something a little bit, small thing, then a little bit more stronger emotion, or stronger distraction in this way. And of course, to be able to overcome stronger, like physical pain and all different kind of things, it requires much deeper and much stronger training. So it's a step-by-step thing, I think. If there are certain other methods that helps you, then it's good. There's nothing wrong with that. But there is also, I think, a very important thing is about our way of looking at things also, how we see things. And that is a very important part of the whole process of training, how we see things. For instance, if you get angry all the time, or if you get upset all the time, and then if you have some understanding that it's not useful to be angry or to be upset all the time, the more we are convinced about that, the more it's easier for us to become mindful.
As far as the Satipathala is concerned, if I am to take this question, it is sometimes it is related to the age, but sometimes maybe other factors also. So therefore it is a matter of facilitator, the understanding the recipient. And when we are presenting mindfulness, So the Satipasala, we thought in Sri Lankan education system, grade 5 scholarship. It's a hell of a tension developing for the children. So we are not going to teach at the grade 5. We are training at the grade 3 and 4 and preparation like, and we are informing them, they are preparing that. And again in the grade 10, again in the grade 12. So therefore we are aiming at grade 8 and 9 and grade 11. Because these are the classes where we can expect some kind of a little bit of space in the mind of the child. So we develop that kind of a thing, but it is a day by day we are learning according to the punishment in the schools for the teachers and other abuse of the children. They are different from country to the district to district. Remote areas, completely different setup. And in the Colombo, Kandy, Galle, townships, different. So therefore, each and every facilitator must understand the volatile situation of the child. So therefore, that is why we are very happy to work with the other traditions also. They are already doing with children. And therefore, the facilitators' preparedness, facilitators' openness is very important. So when we are selecting a facilitator, we expect they have to volunteer. It is not a paid job. And they must be already mindful practitioners, and they must know how to tackle their own questions. And whenever the child may be presenting the question, or the facilitator may observe the question, under such circumstances, how to tackle. So we are very, very young at our experience. I hope in time to come, we have to work with the other such working groups and to develop tactics in furtherance.
Thank you very much, Venerable Dhammajiva. Can I call Dila Hettiarachi, please, to come up on stage and present our speakers for this session with a token of appreciation, firstly to Very Venerable Ringu Tulku Rinpoche, to the Venerable Panadure Chandaratana, to Professor Lionel Tennakoon, to Venerable Ma Vajira, and Professor Lionel Tennakoon. And also to our moderator, Venerable U. Dhammajiva. Thank you very much, Venerable Sirs, also Professor Tennakoon.